Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of AEW Fantasy Booking here on ZOP Gaming channel. I'm Tim Green. I'm one of the voices of As the Buckle Turns, and today we are going through AEW All Out. That's right, we are finally here. We are at All Out. Now, I do want to just point out there will be no face cam this week because, well, I got lazy and yeah, I didn't record my face when I went through the simulation. So we're just going to go by my voice today, so deal with it if you don't like it. Before we jump into the action, I'm going to go through the entire card of here, from the buy-in all the way through. First, the buy-in. We have Shawn Spears taking on Brian Pillman Jr. And next, we have the Raven Goths taking on the Magical Girls in tag team action. We have a three-way dance between the American Wolf, the Natural Nightmares, and Private Party. In the feature contest of the buy-in, we have Bayley Rose with Mercedes Banks taking on Leyla Hirsch. So that is the buy-in. So let's move on to the main card. Opening the show, we have the Women's Casino Battle Royale, where the winner gets a future World Women's Championship opportunity. We have the TNT champion Hangman Adam Page taking on Cody in a ladders match. In six-man tag action, we have EBBE versus the Death Triangle, Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade, versus Rey Fenix, Pentagon Jr., and Pac. In the finals of the best of 7, we have MJF with Wardlow taking on Jungle Boy in a 2 out of 3 falls. The winner will be better than the other. In a 1-on-3 handicap match, we have Nyla Rose taking on Azumi, Alicia Edwards, and Brooke Adams. Finally, we have FTR versus the Young Bucks in tag team action. We have John Cena taking on the Cleaner, Kenny Omega. In the finals of the AEW World Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, we have Enliven taking on Age of Beauty. For the AEW World Women's Championship, we have Hikaru Shida defending against Tessa Blanchard. We have the best friends of Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta teaming up with Orange Cassidy to defend the AEW World Tag Team Championship against Satana and Ortiz and Chris Jericho. If the Inner Circle pin any member of the best friends, Santana and Ortiz will be the World Tag Team Champions. In the main event, AEW World Champion Jon Moxley defends his championship against Darby Allin and Brian Cage. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the full all-out card. With that being said, let's waste no more time. Let's get right into the action. Roll that intro. Are you ready? Alright, in our opening matchup of the buy-in show, we have Shawn Spears taking on Brian Pillman Jr. In a match that had good heat and decent wrestling, Shawn Spears defeats Brian Pillman Jr. with the tiebreaker. The in-ring performance was a 61 for Shawn and a 56 for Brian Pillman, giving us a 55 overall match rating, which is pretty good. But this is the buy-in, so we're just going to move on to the next one. In another decent pre-show match, the Magical Girls take on Raven Goth. Rio and Yua Sawazaki take on Bea Priestley and Priscilla Kelly. In that matchup, the Magical Girls defeat Raven Goths when Rio pins Priscilla Kelly after the jumping knee attack. Rio carried the matchup in terms of in-ring performance. Her in-ring performance was a 67, Yuka had a 57, Priscilla Kelly had a 49, and Bea Priestley had a 55. And because I forgot to remove them from the tag team tournament storyline, that progressed here and gained heat even though they are no longer in it. But we got a 65 overall match rating, which is actually really good, so I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the next one. In another decent pre-show match, the American Wolves defeat the Natural Nightmares and Private Party by elimination, where we have Private Party was eliminated first, then the Natural Nightmares. QT Marshall was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everyone's in-ring performance. Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards had a 70, QT Marshall had a 44, Dustin Rhodes had a 64, Isaiah Cassidy had a 57, and Mark Queen had a 56, with an overall segment rating of 59. Backstage was Alec Marvez and Nyla Rose. Marvez: Nyla, you attacked Brooke Adams, Azumi, and Alicia Edwards. Why'd you do that? Nyla: to prove a point. I'm a beast, and their wins were nothing. I'll prove it tonight. 1-on-3. What do you say? Brooke Adam walks up. Brooke, you're on. Just remember, when I beat you, I pinned you after hitting my finish. Nyla attacks Brooke and beats her up, then puts her through a table. Nyla, oops. Well, it appears it'll be 2-on-1 now. So it looks like we're going to be getting a handicap match. Azumi and Alicia Edwards versus Nyla Rose later on tonight. And this segment got a 45 overall rating. Well, let's move on to the final matchup of the buy-in. In our final matchup of the buy-in, we have Bayley Rose defeat Leyla Hirsch in 12 minutes and 52 seconds with a Bayley to belly suplex. Bayley had an in-ring performance of 82, Leyla had an in-ring performance of 37, and this overall segment got a 61, which is actually pretty good. This also gives Bayley a singles win. We couldn't do a tag team matchup because Mercedes Banks got injured on Impact, which I'm not happy about still, but at least we got to have Bayley have a matchup. So with that being said, that's the end of the buy-in. Let's move on to the main card. In the opening matchup of All Out is the AEW Women's Casino Battle Royale. In a decent matchup, Mayu Iwatani won the matchup. In the final four, we had Mercedes Martinez, Anna Jay, and Afi Kane. I can't pronounce that name correctly. Martinez was the last elimination, with Dr. Britt Baker getting the most eliminations in the matchup. And with this win, Mayu Iwatani gets an AEW World Women's Championship shot in the future. But the segment match got a 61, which is a good start off for the All Out. So I'm happy with this. And our next matchup is for the TNT Championship. Cody challenges champion Hangman Adam Page in a ladders match. In an exceptional match, the champion Hangman defeats Cody by retrieving the belt in 14 minutes and 35 seconds. This is Adam Page's second title defense. Their ring performances were both at an 83. This advanced the TNT Open Challenge storyline, but no heat was gained, which is a disappointment. But the segment rating was a 75, which is awesome. This probably should have opened the show, but I do like the idea of having the Women's Battle Royal going in there. Even though it was a little bit lower, I am still happy with how that one turned out. And then having this one just kind of elevate it just goes to show that we're going up. I'm happy with this, so let's continue on with the next matchup. Six-man tag action where we have the Death Triangle of Pac, Rey Fenix, and Pentagon Jr. taking on EBBE, Eddie Kingston, the Butcher, and the Blade. And about that had good heat, decent wrestling. Death Triangle defeated EBBE when Pentagon Jr. pinned Eddie Kingston with a top rope Styles Clash. The ring performances were a 65 for Pentagon Jr., Rey Fenix with a 72, Pac with a 69, the Blade with a 58, Butcher with a 51, and Eddie Kingston with a 58. Death to the Triangle storyline advanced and gained heat, which is actually really good. Got a segment rating of a 65. I'm happy with this, so let's move on. The next matchup is the final matchup in the best of 7 series between MJF and Jungle Boy. In a bout that had good heat, decent wrestling, Jungle Boy defeated MJF in 18 minutes and 21 seconds, 2 falls to 1 after losing the first fall, with the final fall happening by submission. MJF had an in-ring performance of 64, Jungle Boy had an in-ring performance of 60, and the Better Than You storyline advanced to the segment and gained heat, which I'm actually happy to see here. You can see all that green stuff there that you want to read for yourself, but the match segment got a 64, which is really good. Overall, I am not happy with this segment just because I completely messed up this storyline, forgetting to put in a few extra matches to actually have 7. Seeing it now, I probably should have just had MJF win this, but I decided to go with a simulation. The game decided who won, and that was a mistake. This was a mistake, so while it's a good matchup, and I'm happy that I got a 64, this whole feud was messed up, and I really need to fix MJF going forward because I have not used him efficiently as I should have. We will fix him going forward, but with that being said, let's move on to the next matchup. Nyla Rose comes out to the ring and grabs the mic. Nyla, looks like Rook is unable to compete tonight. My bad. I should have gone easier on her so I could enjoy taking her out much slower. So I could enjoy taking her out longer. Now how about my next 2 victims come out? Alicia, Nyla, you call yourself a beast, yet you issue a challenge for 3-on-1, then took out one of whom you challenged. We all know it's because you knew you couldn't beat us. You have lost to all of us. Nyla, I could beat you 2. I could beat you if you had 3. If you can find a third, we can do 3-on-1. Alicia and Izumi smile. Alicia, I'm so glad you said that because we have a third. Evie's music hits and out she comes, the former Dakota Kai. So ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have a 3-on-1 with Evie, the former Dakota Kai, teaming up with Izumi and Alicia Edwards to face Nyla Rose. Let's get to that matchup now. In a decent matchup, Izumi, Alicia Edwards, and Evie defeat Nyla Rose in a handicap match in 14 minutes and 58 seconds, and Evie pinned Nyla Rose with a top rope splash. Nyla had an in-ring performance of 47, Evie had an in-ring performance of 59, Alicia Edwards had an in-ring performance of 50, and Izumi had an in-ring performance of 56. Nyla Rose, the Beast storyline, advanced with this segment. Forgot to mention that the storyline also advanced and gained heat with the last segment. And this matchup got a 46, which is not the best. It could have been better, but it is what it is. But I am happy with the fact that I could finally bring in Evie to be used because I signed her back in the middle of August when I was doing 2016. So she's been signed since we switched over to 2020. I have been wanting to use her since, and I didn't want to give it away on AEW Dark. Having a way to take Brooke out of the storyline, even though I enjoyed using her, at least I can use her now here. Use Evie, which is a little bit more well known than Brooke Adams. But I wish this match segment got better than a 46, but I'll still take it. The next matchup is a matchup we've all been waiting for, and it is the Young Bucks taking on FTR. In a superb match, FTR defeat the Young Bucks in 28 minutes and 39 seconds when Cash Ware pins Nick Jackson. The in-ring performances for the Jacksons are 82 for Nick, and Matt had a 77, Dax had a 78, and Cash had a 76. The Elite Fracture storyline advanced and gained heat here, which is awesome to see storylines gaining heat. You can see the green stuff that they all have there. The thing I want to focus on mostly is the 74, which is awesome. I do kind of wish this was a tad bit higher. This is just me wanting it to be like really, really high. I'm happy with this, and hopefully the real life actual match that we'll get at Full Gear this Saturday will actually be just as good or better. But I am absolutely thrilled with this one, and we'll just have to see what's next for the Young Bucks and FTR following All Out in this bout. You know the Tag Team Championship's got to be on the minds for both these tag teams. Let's move on because we still have a lot of show to go through. In a matchup we would all love to see, John Cena taking on Kenny Omega. In an exceptional match, Kenny defeats John Cena in 19 minutes and 37 seconds by one winged angel. John had a 80 for the in-ring performance, and Kenny had an 85. The Elite Fracture storyline advanced but no heat, which is disappointing. And the match segment had a 75, which is actually pretty good. I was hoping for an 80 or higher, 85 probably, just because of the names and all that. But with Cena only being in the company for 3 weeks, only very limited build, I really couldn't get much more than I'm assuming for the 75, but I will still take it. I just wish it was higher. But now the question is, now that John Cena has been defeated by Kenny Omega, what is next for him? The next matchup is the finals of the AEW World Women's Tag Team Championship. We have Enliven of Tenille Dashwood and Zoey Sky taking on Age of Beauty of Bobbi Taylor, and Zoe Lucas. In a decent matchup, Enliven defeats Age of Beauty in 19 minutes and 47 seconds. Zoey Sky pins Zoe Lucas with the Sky Dash. Enliven win the AEW World Women's Tag Team Championships. Tenille Dashwood carried the matchup in terms of in-ring performance. Zoey Sky had an in-ring performance of 56. Tenille Dashwood had a 76. Zoe Lucas had a 58. And Bobbi Tyler had a 56. And the tag team tournament storyline advanced, but lost heat, which is not what I wanted to see for the end of this tournament, but what it is. But we got a 58, which is actually still pretty good, so I'm actually happy with this because most of the names in here aren't as popular, and with Tenille Dashwood being known, but not as well known to some as as Tessa or Sasha or Mercedes Banks and Bayley. But we now have our first AEW World Women's Tag Team Championships. Who will be the next challengers? I know who, but we'll get to that later. Alright, let's move on to the next championship match. Our next matchup is for the AEW World Women's Championship. Hikaru Shida defending against Tessa Blanchard. In a superb matchup, Tessa defeats Hikaru Shida in 30 minutes and 24 seconds by pinfall. Tessa is your new AEW World Women's Champion. Hikaru Shida had an in-ring performance of 68, and Tessa Blanchard had an in-ring performance of 81. The Rise of Supremacy storyline did advance, but no heat gained. Damn. The segment rating was a 69, which is just shy of 70, which is stupid. This should have been a 70. I'm sorry. I don't know why it was rated that, but it should have been. But I'm now happy with Tessa being the champion. Hikaru Shida did a good job as champion. Tessa is far more well known in the wrestling community than Hikaru Shida is, even though she's been elevated to a top star. We definitely need to have someone of Tessa's caliber as champion, along with Mercedes Banks, former Sasha Banks, and Bayley Rose alongside her with Supremacy. So I'm happy with this, and will be interesting to see how things will progress now that we now know Tessa is champion and the number one contender is Mayu Wanatami, who faced each other at Fyter Fest. Now it'll be interesting to see how this will all turn out when they face off again for the championship. Moving on. The next matchup is for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Best Friends, teaming with Orange Cassidy, take on the Inner Circle of Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, or if any member of the Inner Circle pin any member of the Best Friends, Santana and Ortiz become the Tag Team Champions. In a bout that had great wrestling, the Best Friends defeat the Inner Circle when Orange Cassidy pins Chris Jericho with a super kick. The in-ring performances, Orange Cassidy had a 65, Trent Beretta had a 70, Chucky T had a 67, Ortiz had a 59, Santana had a 61, and Jericho had an 82. The Bessie Freshly Squeezed Inner Circle Friends storyline advanced and gained heat, which is awesome. Here, you can read all that green stuff if you want to there. And the segment was a 67, which is a little low, but I'll still take it. But yes, the Best Friends retain their tag team championships. I just want to point out, the tag team titles in-game were not actually on the line because the game will not allow you to defend the tag titles in a 6-man tag, which is stupid. I'm almost certain 2016 you could do this. I could be wrong, but I think I've done this before in 2016. But I will make it up in game where they'll get that actual title defense added on at some point, but it was still considered a tag team title defense in my book. And it is another win for the Best Friends and a victory for Orange Cassidy pinning Jericho. But with that said, it's time to move on to the main event. AEW World Champion Jon Moxley takes on Brian Cage and Darby Allin in a triple threat match. And about that had fantastic heat, great wrestling. Jon Moxley defeats Brian Cage and Darby Allin in 24 minutes and 37 seconds when Jon Moxley pins Brian Cage with a Death Rider. Jon Moxley makes number 6 title defense. The in-ring performances, Jon Moxley had an 82, Brian Cage had a 73, and Darby Allin had a 69. And the AEW World Championship storyline advanced. Again, no heat was gained. The best part about it is one of the highest ratings segments that this feud has gotten with these three is a 71, which I'm happy with. Very, very happy with. I was afraid that we're going to end All Out like in a 65, 68, but we broke into the 70s for this final matchup, which I am thrilled. Where do we go with Brian Cage and Darby Allin? Because these two have been feuding since Double or Nothing. So only time will tell with that one. But let's move on because there is one more segment. Jon Moxley celebrates his victory when Kenny Omega runs in and attacks, beating Moxley down into the mat. The AEW World Championship storyline advanced with no heat gain, which I can't be surprised overall. Kenny Omega officially turns heel. He was supposed to turn heel against John Cena when he attacked him before on Dynamite, but I couldn't do that. I was able to do it in this segment, which I'm happy about. And he is officially a heel, and it was a huge success. So the big news here is this segment, with the ending of All Out, we end with an 86 segment rating. Wow. This is the highest rating I've ever gotten in this game so far. So I am thrilled to be ending our WrestleMania basically with such a high rating. And I think we know who wants an AEW World Championship shot. But the question is Kenny in line? Well, you can find out who the top 5 of all the divisions at the end of this show. Only time will tell. So with All Out done, let's go to see how the show did overall. All Out got a 78 overall, which is phenomenal. Yes, it's 2 away from 80, which would have been great, but still a 78 for our top pay-per-view of the year. That is awesome. But overall, I am thrilled with the results of this card. Well, outside of MJF and Jungle Boy's feud. But this was still an awesome show, a 78. Fantastic. But let's go on and see what were the buys. How well did AEW do in the purchase rates? Let's find that out. So we had 16,109 people in attendance for All Out, which is pretty big. I think it's just the biggest pay-per-view we've had. And a total of, we had over 277,433 views overall. And you can read how it breaks down between all the contracts we have on screen there, which is fantastic. I am so happy with how this card came out. Well, outside of Jungle Boy and MJF's storyline, because, yeah. But I do have to give you the news now that I will be taking a short fantasy booking break because, well, I have other things in my life I have to focus on, as well as with me making the mistake with Ring of Honor and purchasing them and having a whole bunch of talent in Ring of Honor that I want to use and call up to, well, essentially AEW's main roster now. I gotta figure out how to use that and do that because there's a bunch of talent I'm not currently using that I want to start using, like the Dark Order. I have not used the Dark Order in any way, shape, or form. Hell, Alex Reynolds and John Silver are enhancement talent because I forgot they were part of the Dark Order when I started this fantasy booking in 2016. So I gotta figure out where I'm going with this. I have some ideas, but all that just kind of got messed up. Consider this the season finale of fantasy booking. There will be more coming soon, hopefully in the next month or two, but I can't say for sure. But that is the goal, to come back within the next month or two. Thank you so much for watching Fantasy Booking. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Great way to help support the video and the channel, ZOP Gaming. And if you really enjoy this, please consider sharing this video on your social media. Another great way to help support ZOP Gaming. And since it's right there, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and turn on all notifications so you know when Fantasy Booking returns and other ZOP content goes live. Be sure to check out the top 5 of all the divisions following All Out. And this way you know who the top 5 stars and teams are going into Season 2 when that does debut. Thanks again so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!